In the wake of coronavirus, primary elections are virtually on hold.
Maryland is already postponing its primary.
Georgia's Secretary of State announcing the presidential primaries are being postponed.
Kentucky's governor and Secretary of State have agreed to postpone May's primary elections.
Red states and blue states postponing voting, many until June. The hope is by then it will be safe enough for people to get to the polls to cast their ballots. But some think Americans should be voting a different way entirely, regardless of when this virus lets up. They say it's a way that would keep the election schedule intact.
It's not the first thing on everyone's minds right now, but we have to, a few of us, have to start thinking the long haul for our very democracy.
Senator Amy Klobuchar, along with Senator Ron Wyden, are hoping to retool the voting process by allowing no excuse needed absentee vote by mail in all 50 states and expand early in-person voting. Voters would be able to use printable ballots, and states would be required to provide prepaid self-sealing envelopes with a barcode.
Because our country voted through all kinds of world wars and depressions and other things. There's no reason we can't make this work now with modern technology and modern information like matching signatures.
Do you think it can be implemented quickly?
I do, because every state has some of it, right? Every state has some kind of absentee ballot for our military, for people who are in assisted living and the like. They have ways to accommodate. So what you're doing is really expanding on an existing system. That's going to mean money for postage and the like. But you also want to make the system work for everyone.
According to the National Conference on State Legislatures, just 5 states conduct all elections by mail. A handful of other states allow some to vote by mail under certain circumstances, but more than a dozen other states require an excuse, like a religious observance or a disability, to vote by mail. Those who argue against mail-in voting say it exposes elections to fraud and coercion, away from the eyes of on-site poll watchers. Klobuchar and Wyden asked for $2 billion to implement their strategy in the third coronavirus stimulus bill. They got $400 million. She says it's a start, but so far the support has only come from one side of the aisle. More than a dozen Democratic senators, including current and former presidential candidates Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, and Cory Booker, are co-sponsoring the bill. Republican members of Congress are open to giving federal dollars to modernize elections, but oppose federal mandates on mail-in voting. They say making changes to the elections process should be a state decision. Klobuchar says she's seen signals of support from Republican secretaries of state.
We have a bunch of Republican secretaries of states who have asked for the funding as well. It's not just Democratic ones, so that's a good sign. They're getting huge pressure from their constituents.
With President Trump extending social guidelines for at least another month, it's not just the primaries Klobuchar says officials need to be concerned about. In addition to the presidential race, there are 11 governorships, 35 Senate seats, and every single House seat up for grabs in November.
And I think the fact that some of these primary states delayed their elections for benevolent reasons, but the fact that they delayed them really is like a big sign, man. You got to be like, duh, coming our way, that we've got to plan ahead for this upcoming election in November.
For Newsy in Washington, I'm Alex Miller.